The lavender balloons floated gently against a perfect blue sky as Catherine walked toward her best friend's baby shower. 20 years of friendship with Mary had taught her how to read the signs. The small curve of Mary's lips when she was hiding something. The way she tilted her head when she wanted attention. But today felt different. Something was wrong. Her husband, James, sensed it too. His trained eyes, sharp from years as a doctor, were quietly watching movements others might miss. When he took her hand and whispered, "We have to go now," Catherine hesitated. She should have listened. But instead, she brushed him off, making excuses like she always did for Mary. It wasn't until they were halfway home that James finally said the words that shook the foundation of Catherine's oldest friendship. Just 3 words. Words she didn't want to believe. At that moment, she had no idea how deep the deception went, or how much it would cost her to finally uncover the truth about the person she thought she knew better than anyone. As they pulled into the circular driveway of Mary's suburban home, the gravel crunched under their tires. The house was decorated with soft lavender and cream streamers. Balloons swayed in the light spring breeze. Cars lined both sides of the street. Far more than Catherine expected for what Mary had described as a small, private gathering. "Looks like half the town showed up," James said beside her, adjusting his collar. He had been quiet during the drive, gripping the steering wheel a little too tightly. "You know Mary," Catherine replied. "She's never done anything halfway." James nodded, but something in his expression didn't sit right with her. He was usually the one chatting with strangers and remembering neighbors' pets. Today, though, he looked on edge. "You feeling okay?" she asked, resting her hand on his forearm. "Fine," he said, giving a tired smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Just exhausted from the double shift." Catherine let it go. James often came home worn out from the hospital, and she didn't want to start Mary's baby shower with an argument. They walked up the neatly trimmed path toward the front door. Catherine carried a gift basket filled with organic baby clothes, children's books, and a handmade blanket she had spent 3 months knitting. The door swung open before they could knock. "Catherine," Mary squealed, stretching her arms wide. She stood glowing in a long, pale pink dress that flowed gently around her figure. Her dark curls were styled in soft waves, and a flower crown rested on her head. Her makeup highlighted her bright eyes and rosy cheeks. She looked like something straight out of a glossy maternity magazine, the kind where models smiled with perfect bumps, selling dreams of motherhood. "You look amazing," Catherine said, handing the basket to James so she could hug her. Mary held her at arm's length, turning slightly to the side. "Don't squish the baby," she laughed, patting her stomach. Mary wore the baby bump proudly, but the way she touched it seemed too rehearsed. A little too showy. "We wouldn't want that," Catherine replied, smiling, though she tried to catch James's eye. He was already scanning the room behind Mary, eyes sharp and focused. The entryway opened into a transformed living room. Lavender flowers decorated every surface. A photographer moved around the guests, snapping pictures. In the corner, a bartender served mocktails and mimosas from behind a marble counter. A neon sign glowed from the far wall in pink script. "It's a girl." "This is wow," Catherine whispered. "Mary, this must have cost a fortune." "Don't worry about it," Mary said quickly, waving her hand. "Most of it was donated. People have been incredibly generous." James raised an eyebrow but stayed silent. Then Nathan, Mary's husband of 3 years, came over with 2 glasses of champagne. He was tall and lean, with dark hair that was starting to thin near the temples. "For those of us not carrying babies," he said, handing 1 glass to James. His British accent gave his words a clipped edge. "Congratulations," James said as their glasses clinked. "First time, Dad. Big changes coming." "The biggest," Nathan replied, though his eyes briefly flicked toward Mary. They shared a quick glance. One Catherine couldn't quite understand. "Catherine!" A voice called across the room. Lillian appeared, weaving through the crowd. Her curly hair bounced with every step. Behind her came Jessica and Stanley, Catherine's old high school crew, reunited at last. "It's been forever," Jessica exclaimed, pulling Catherine into a hug. She wore a flowing dress, her fingers stained with paint despite trying to clean them. 6 months isn't forever, Catherine laughed. "In artist time?" "It is," Jessica teased. Lillian stood back, watching with the calm focus she'd developed since becoming a therapist. "How's the counseling center treating you, Catherine?" "Busy as ever," she said. "Everyone needs someone to talk to these days." Stanley stood at the edge of the group, hands in his pockets. He had grown into his looks since high school. No longer the shy boy who used to slip notes into Catherine's locker when he thought no one noticed. "Nice to see you," he said, eyes lingering on hers a moment too long. "You too," she replied, suddenly aware of James watching them. Mary clapped her hands. "Now that Catherine's here, I can finally show you all the nursery mock-up. The designer sent the renderings yesterday." She led the group upstairs, chatting excitedly about organic paint and eco-friendly timber. James walked beside Catherine, his fingers brushing hers lightly. "Notice anything?" he whispered. "Like what?" she asked softly. He shook his head. "Never mind. Later." The second bedroom had been transformed into a soft dream of pinks and creams. A crystal chandelier hung above a hand-carved crib. On the walls was a mural of a magical forest filled with deer and rabbits. A cozy armchair sat in the corner next to a bookshelf already full of children's books. "It's stunning," Jessica said, her voice filled with awe. "Absolutely," Catherine agreed, though a question bothered her. The room looked far more expensive than what Mary and Nathan usually preferred, and definitely beyond their income. Nathan worked in publishing, and Mary ran a small nonprofit. This room alone probably cost more than what they made in 3 months. Most of it was donated by vendors who support the Maternal Health Initiative, Mary said, as if reading her thoughts. They want their products to be seen. "That's convenient," Lillian replied, her voice calm but with a therapist's sharpness behind it. Mary's smile tightened just a little. "It's networking. The best kind." As the others admired the custom wallpaper, Catherine noticed James standing in the doorway. His phone was out, and he seemed to be taking pictures of the room, zooming in on small details. When he saw her watching, he quickly put the phone away. Downstairs, the party was in full swing. Guests played games, filled out advice cards, and stacked gifts high on a table that looked like it might collapse under the weight. Through all of it, James stayed on the edges, quiet, texting, with none of his usual warm energy. During a break in the party, Catherine found him near the drinks table. "What's going on with you today?" she asked. "Nothing," he replied, though his eyes continued scanning the room. "You keep saying that, but you're acting strange. You haven't spoken to anyone." He sighed and ran his hand through his dark hair. "I'm sorry. I just noticed a few things that don't add up." Before she could ask more, the photographer called for a group photo. Everyone gathered around Mary, who stood front and center, her hands gently holding her stomach like it was the most valuable thing in the world. As the photographer counted down, James stepped back, distracted by something, or someone across the room. He pulled out his phone again, typing fast. Catherine followed his gaze. A man stood near the gift table. He was middle-aged, had salt and pepper hair, and wore glasses. He stared at Mary with an expression Catherine couldn't understand. Worry. Confusion. "Who's that?" she whispered to Jessica. Jessica shrugged. "Maybe one of Nathan's co-workers. Or a family friend." The photo session ended, and Mary's mother stepped up to speak. Lucy Whitman was a strong woman. Her black hair was cut into a sharp bob that framed her carefully done-up face. "When Mary told me she was finally expecting," Lucy began, raising her glass, "I thought about all the waiting, all the quiet. This baby girl is a blessing after all that time." Everyone clapped. Beside Catherine, James suddenly tensed. "We have to go," he said in a low, serious tone. "What? We can't just leave in the middle of—" she started, but James took her wrist. His grip wasn't painful, but it was firm. His eyes met hers. "Trust me. We need to go. James, this is my best friend's baby shower. I can't just—" "I'll explain in the car," he said, cutting her off. "Please." Something in his voice, steady, not scared, but very sure, made her pause. Catherine quickly apologized to Mary, saying something had come up at the hospital. Mary frowned but accepted the excuse and made Catherine promise they'd meet for lunch soon. As they drove away, the lavender balloons still floated in the rearview mirror. Catherine turned to James. "This better be good." His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "It's not good, Catherine. It's not good at all." The silence in the car felt like a third person sitting between them. James drove steadily, eyes focused on the road. Outside, spring sunlight painted everything in cheerful colors, which only made the tension inside feel heavier. "Are you going to tell me what that was about?" Catherine finally asked. "Or should I guess?" James's jaw was tight. "Give me a minute. I'm trying to figure out how to say this." "Say what? That you embarrass me in front of everyone I know? That you dragged me out of my best friend's baby shower like it was some kind of crime scene. He didn't answer. He just turned on the signal sharply and merged onto the highway. James, she said again, this time gently. Whatever it is, just tell me. He let out a long breath and his shoulders dropped. Not until we're halfway home. I need you focused. Not distracted. You're scaring me. I'm sorry. He reached over to squeeze her hand. That's not my intention. They drove in silence for another 15 minutes. Houses and stores slowly gave way to open land. When they passed an old, rusted billboard for a closed diner, James finally spoke. Mary's not pregnant. Catherine looked at him, waiting for a joke. When it didn't come, she laughed in disbelief. What are you talking about? We were just at her baby shower. I saw her stomach. You saw something, James said, his voice calm like a doctor giving news. But it wasn't a 7-month pregnancy. That's crazy, Catherine said, turning in her seat to look at him. I've known Mary since we were 6 years old. I'd know if she was pretending to be pregnant. Would you? He asked, glancing at her before looking back at the road. When's the last time you actually touched her stomach? The question hit hard. Catherine opened her mouth, then closed it again. She thought back on all their recent moments. The dinner when Mary announced her pregnancy, the gender reveal party, the shopping trips. Every time there had been hugs, but always from the side, always brief. She doesn't like people touching her belly, Catherine said. Lots of pregnant women don't. That's convenient. Stop it, she snapped. This is ridiculous. You really think Mary is faking a pregnancy? What would be the point? James sighed. The man at the gift table. That was Dr. Henry Gregg. He's an obstetrician at my hospital. So maybe he's her doctor? Catherine asked. He's not, James said firmly. He works only at Mercy General. Mary goes to St. Elizabeth's. You told me that yourself when she first announced the pregnancy. Catherine frowned. Maybe she switched doctors. Catherine, James said softly now. He recognized me. We made eye contact, and he looked worried. Deeply worried. Worried about what? I don't know exactly, James replied. But after that, I overheard Nathan on the phone in the hallway near the bathroom. James's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He said, and I quote, "She's starting to believe it herself. We need to speed this up." A chill moved through Catherine. That could have been about anything. Then explain the medical reports I saw in Mary's office last week when we helped move that furniture. You were snooping through their papers? Catherine was shocked. They were just lying on the desk. Blood test panels, Catherine. Not consistent with pregnancy. You had no right. I'm a doctor, James said. I know what I saw. Anger rose inside her. Fast and hot. So what now? You think this is all some giant lie? That my best friend is wearing a fake bump and pretending to be pregnant? More than pretending, James said. Possibly something psychological. This is, Catherine sputtered, struggling for words. This is jealousy. You've always been strange about my friendship with Mary. James's face grew hard. That's not fair, and you know it. Ever since we got married, you've made comments about how much time I spend with her. How she always needs something. How she calls too late. Because she's manipulative. He raised his voice for the first time. She uses you, Catherine. She always has. Pull over, she said coldly. What? Pull over. James guided the car to the shoulder and stopped. The engine stayed running. They sat in silence, the quiet hum of the air conditioner filling the space between them. I don't want to fight, he said after a moment. I'm telling you what I've noticed because I'm worried. About you. Even about her. Catherine stared out the window, her eyes stinging. You're wrong about this. I hope I am, James said, his voice lower. But think. Really think. When did she announce it? January, Catherine answered quietly. That's 7 months ago. Has her body changed the way a pregnant woman's does? Not just her stomach, her face, her ankles, her overall weight. Catherine remembered the baby shower. Mary's slender arms. Her sharp jawline. Her slim ankles and strappy heels. Pregnant women usually held water. Their faces puffed. Their bodies shifted in ways that couldn't be hidden. She's always been thin, Catherine whispered weakly. She's not drinking, right? Because of doctor's orders, not morning sickness. Have you ever heard her mention nausea? Back pain? Food aversions? Catherine couldn't recall any. According to Mary, her pregnancy had been magical. No symptoms. No complaints. And the nursery, James added. Everything is still in packaging. Nothing's been put together. It all looks staged. Stop. Catherine covered her ears like a child. Just stop. He fell quiet. Slowly, unwillingly, Catherine let herself consider it. Mary's carefully posed photos. The fact that she never seemed to need the bathroom, even though she was supposedly carrying a 7-month baby. The way she dodged questions about prenatal care. Why? Catherine whispered, dropping her hands. Why would someone do this? I don't know, James admitted. For attention? Donations? That shower wasn't cheap. She said everything was donated. What does that even mean? Catherine thought about it. The expensive decorations, the catering, the gifts. Mary's nonprofit focused on maternal health. Could this be connected? I need to know the truth, she said at last. James nodded, shifting the car into drive. So do I. As they got back on the highway, doubt crept into Catherine's mind like fog, clouding everything she had believed. She had known Mary longer than anyone else besides family. They had shared everything, first periods, first kisses, college stress, wedding jitters. Mary was like a sister. But even then, there had always been something about her that craved attention. In high school, her heartbreaks were public. Her wins were loud. Even her proposal with Nathan had been planned for maximum attention online. I keep thinking about what her mother said, James said suddenly. A blessing after long silence. What silence? Mary's never mentioned having fertility problems. No, Catherine agreed. She hasn't. Her phone buzzed with a text. It was from Mary. Miss you already. Lunch Tuesday, Justice Girls. So much to tell you. Catherine stared at it, seeing the message with new eyes. So much to tell me. What hadn't Mary already shared about this pregnancy? The rest of the drive was quiet. By the time they pulled into their driveway, the sun was setting, painting the sky in soft orange and pink. What now? Catherine asked as James turned off the engine. He looked at her seriously in the fading light. That's up to you. She's your friend. Catherine nodded slowly. I need to find out the truth. Whatever it is, James said gently, we'll face it together. That night, Catherine lay awake long after James had fallen asleep beside her. Her mind kept racing, thinking through every memory with Mary from the past 7 months. The excitement in her voice when she first announced the pregnancy. How she always declined Catherine's offer to attend doctor appointments. The vague responses about due dates and hospital visits. Something wasn't adding up. By morning, Catherine had made a decision. She needed to see for herself. The day after the baby shower arrived bright and clear. James had an early shift at the hospital, leaving her alone with her restless thoughts. She paced the kitchen, her coffee sitting untouched in a mug, replaying everything James had said. Could it be true? Could her best friend, the person she trusted more than anyone outside of her husband, really be living a lie this big? Catherine picked up her phone and began scrolling through recent photos of Mary. In every picture, Mary was glowing, hands gently holding her baby bump, her smile dazzling. But when Catherine looked closer, she started to notice patterns. Mary always wore loose-fitting dresses or large tops. She always posed at an angle, and she always kept a bit of distance between herself and other people. Before she could change her mind, Catherine texted her. Left my shawl at your place yesterday. Okay if I swing by to grab it? Mary replied quickly. So sorry, not home right now. Doctor appointment in the city. Tina is there though. She can let you in. Perfect. Mary's younger sister, Tina, was less careful, less polished. If anyone might say the wrong thing, it would be her. Catherine grabbed her purse and keys, imagining a pale blue shawl she knew didn't exist. The drive to Mary's house felt longer than usual. Each mile felt like it carried her closer to a truth she wasn't ready for. Mary and Nathan lived in a renovated Victorian house on the edge of town, a wedding gift from Mary's parents, which they had slowly restored. As Catherine pulled into the driveway, she noticed Nathan's car was gone. Only Tina's old Civic sat parked in the carport. She knocked, her heart beating hard in her chest. Footsteps approached, and the door opened to reveal Tina. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun, and she wore sweatpants and one of Mary's old college t-shirts. Catherine, Tina looked surprised. What are you doing here? I left my shawl yesterday, Catherine said with a smile. Mary said you'd let me in. Oh, Tina blinked, then stepped aside. Sure, come in. It's probably in the living room with the baby shower stuff. Catherine stepped inside, instantly struck by how different the house felt without all the decorations and guests. It felt empty, like something had been set up just for display. Sorry about the mess, Tina said, pointing to a half-eaten breakfast on the coffee table. Didn't expect company. No judgment. Catherine smiled, pretending to search the room. The shower was beautiful, she said. You all must have worked so hard. Mostly the event planner, Tina said with a shrug. Mary had very specific ideas. I'm sure she did, Catherine replied. She moved toward the dining room, where she spotted a bottle of red wine open on the table next to a plate with half a steak. Late breakfast, she asked. Tina's face turned red. That was Nathan's from last night. Catherine raised an eyebrow. Steak and red wine? That's a bit heavy for Mary these days, isn't it? Oh, she didn't. Tina stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening. I mean, she had something else. Something pregnancy safe. Catherine nodded, quietly noting the slip. Where is Mary today? She mentioned a doctor's appointment. Tina shifted on her feet. Yeah, she went to a clinic out of town. Some special monitoring. Her voice wasn't steady. Is everything okay with the baby? Catherine asked, watching Tina closely. Everything's fine, Tina said too quickly. Just routine stuff. That's good to hear. Catherine moved toward the stairs. Mind if I check upstairs for my shawl? Maybe it ended up in the nursery. I'll come with you, Tina said a bit too fast. The nursery looked exactly as it had during the shower. Perfect, untouched. But now, with James's words echoing in her mind, Catherine saw the signs. None of the packages had been opened. The crib parts were still wrapped in plastic. The mattress was still sealed. Even the tiny baby clothes in the drawers still had tags. It looks like a showroom, Catherine said quietly, running her fingers across the changing table. Mary wants everything perfect before she opens anything, Tina replied. You know how she is. I thought I did, Catherine whispered. As Tina turned to search the closet, Catherine spotted something. A small notebook was wedged behind the changing table, as if it had fallen and been forgotten. While Tina wasn't looking, Catherine quickly slid it into her purse. Not here, Tina said. Maybe downstairs in the coat closet. They went back downstairs. Catherine pretended to check a few places. I should go, she said finally. I probably left it in my car after all. I'll tell Mary you stopped by, Tina said as she walked her to the door. Please do. Catherine paused at the door. Tina, is everything really okay with Mary? She seems different lately. Something shifted in Tina's face. She looked scared. Sad. She's going through a lot, she said softly. But she'll be fine. She always is. If she needs anything, you'll be the first to know. But her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Catherine had barely reached her car when she heard voices coming from the side of the house. Instinctively, she crouched behind a big hydrangea bush. It was Mary's voice, clear and sharp through the open kitchen window. I don't care what he thinks. This will all be done once the donation clears. Catherine's blood ran cold. Donation? She crept closer, trying to hear more, but Mary had lowered her voice. All Catherine could catch were pieces. Not backing out now, Mary was saying. Too much invested. Then footsteps crunched on gravel. Catherine ran back to her car and jumped in. She had just started the engine when Mary came around the side of the house. The phone was pressed to her ear. Her face was hard, cold, focused. Unlike anything Catherine had ever seen. In the rearview mirror, she saw Mary watching her car. Her free hand wasn't resting on her belly. It hung quietly by her side. Once she was safely down the street, Catherine pulled over and called James. You might be right, she said as soon as he answered, her voice trembling. Something's definitely off. What happened? James asked, his concern strong even through the phone. I went to her house. I found a journal. And I overheard her talking about a donation clearing. She said everything would be over after that. James was quiet for a few seconds. Did you see any medical paperwork? Anything concrete? No, Catherine admitted. But Tina was acting strange. And there was red wine and steak on the table. And the nursery? Nothing's been opened, James. Everything's still in the packaging. Keep the journal, he said. We might need it as evidence. Evidence of what? She asked, suddenly scared of the answer. What do you think is really going on? James's voice turned grim. Best case. She's having some kind of delusional episode. Worst case, fraud. After they ended the call, Catherine sat in her car with the journal on her lap. Opening it felt like a betrayal. But not opening it felt like letting whatever was happening go unchecked. She took a deep breath and opened to the first page. My dearest daughter, though you're not yet in my arms, you're already in my heart. Each day I wait for you is a day closer to holding you. They don't understand. They say it's not possible, that I should accept reality. But mothers know. Mothers always know. Your room is ready. Your family is waiting. All we need now is you. With eternal love, your mother. The entry was dated 3 years ago. Catherine flipped through more pages. Each one was a letter to this imagined daughter. Some were hopeful, others angry, some full of desperation. The most recent one, dated just 2 weeks ago, sent a chill through her body. My miracle girl. They've all finally accepted your coming. The donations are flowing in. Soon we'll have everything we need to bring you home properly. Just a little longer now, and no one will be able to take you away from me again. Forever yours, Mommy. What had happened 3 years ago? Mary and Nathan had only been married for a few months then. Was there a pregnancy no one had known about? A loss. Catherine's phone buzzed. A text from Mary. Saw you driving away. Did you find your shawl? She froze, unsure what to say. Before she could decide, another message came through. Catherine, I need to tell you something. Something I haven't told anyone else. Can we meet tomorrow somewhere private? I've been keeping a secret for too long, and you're the only one I trust with the truth. Catherine stared at the screen. Dread and a strange feeling of being right washed over her all at once. She replied with shaking fingers. Of course. Name the time and place. Mary answered immediately. The cabin at Lake Morrison. Noon. Come alone. The cabin. Her family's old summer place. Quiet, far away, and private. It was the perfect place for a confession or a confrontation. Catherine started the car again, slipping the journal into her purse. She drove home, the weight of 20 years of friendship sitting heavily on her shoulders. By the time she reached their driveway, she had made up her mind. She would meet Mary the next day, hear her out, and then decide what to do. James was waiting in the kitchen, still in his hospital scrubs. One look at her face told him everything. You found something, he said. It wasn't a question. A lot of things, Catherine said quietly, sinking into a chair at the kitchen table. And tomorrow, I'm going to find out the rest. She handed him the journal. James flipped through it slowly. As he read, his expression darkened. When he finished, he closed it carefully and set it between them like it was something dangerous. Whatever you're walking into tomorrow, he said softly, be careful. If she's been living this delusion for 3 years. She's still Mary, Catherine said, though even she wasn't sure anymore what that meant. She's still my friend. James reached across the table and took her hand. People who are drowning will pull down anyone trying to save them, he said. Just remember that. That night, Catherine left James a voicemail before bed. I think you're right about everything. I'm scared of what I'll find tomorrow. In her dreams, she stood inside Mary's perfect nursery. Mary rocked an empty blanket in her arms, humming lullabies to no one. The next morning, the drive to Lake Morrison took 40 minutes. Each mile made her more anxious. She hadn't slept much, her mind full of questions, trying to understand what Mary might reveal. James had offered to come, but Catherine knew this was something she needed to face alone. The lake was calm under the soft spring sunlight. Gentle waves rippled across the surface. The Whitman family cabin sat hidden between tall pine trees, its wood faded and chimney cracked with age. Catherine had spent many summers here with Mary, laughing, swimming, sharing teenage secrets. Now nothing felt the same. As she drove up the gravel path, she spotted Mary's white SUV parked under the carport. Her stomach tightened. There was no going back. Catherine walked slowly toward the door. The porch swing where they used to sit was covered in rust. The flower pots were empty. The welcome mat had no words left on it. Before she could knock, the door opened. Mary stood there in a simple white sundress. Her face had no makeup. Her eyes were red, as if she hadn't slept. There was no sign of a baby bump. Just Mary. You knew, she said quietly. It wasn't a question. Catherine nodded, too choked up to speak. Mary stepped aside, motioning for her to come in. I should have known James would figure it out, she said. Doctors notice things. Inside, the cabin was dim. Sunlight crept through blinds left half closed. Mary sat on the old leather couch, curling her legs beneath her like she always did in college. Do you hate me? She asked, her voice small. Catherine remained standing, not sure what to say. I don't hate you, she said finally. I don't understand. Mary gave a dry laugh. That makes 2 of us. Catherine watched as she poured water from a pitcher into a glass. Her hands were steady. No wine. No act. Just truth. I wasn't always lying, Mary began, staring into the water. A year ago, I really was pregnant. Catherine's breath caught. What? 8 weeks, Mary said. We hadn't told anyone yet. We wanted to wait until the second trimester. Her voice was flat, like she was reciting something she'd said too many times. It happened on a Tuesday, she continued. Nathan was in London for work. I was alone. Mary. Catherine took a step closer, something in her shifting. Why didn't you call me? Because you had just announced your promotion at the counseling center. Everyone was celebrating you. She shrugged. I didn't want to steal your moment. Guilt twisted inside Catherine. That same feeling that had always come with their friendship. The way their lives constantly pulled in opposite directions, each one swallowing the other's joy without meaning to. After the miscarriage, Mary continued in a low voice. I fell apart, but secretly. No one knew except Nathan and my doctor. Catherine sat beside her, leaving a bit of space between them. And then, I stopped accepting it, Mary said. I started talking to the baby like she was still real, buying things, making plans. Her hands moved unconsciously toward her still flat stomach. Nathan was worried, but he went along with it at first. He thought it was grief. When did it become this? Catherine asked, waving her hand vaguely around, meaning everything that was happening now. Mary sighed. 3 months ago. I was supposed to give a speech at a fundraiser for my nonprofit, you know? But I had a panic attack backstage. I couldn't breathe or think. I remember, Catherine said softly. You told me it was food poisoning. Another lie. Mary gave a tired smile. Nathan found me in the bathroom, gasping. I kept saying I couldn't face them, couldn't tell everyone I'd failed. And then he said, what if you didn't have to? Catherine felt cold. He suggested you fake the pregnancy? Not exactly. He said I could say I was newly pregnant, just to get through the event. He said we could announce a loss later, say we were grieving in private. Mary looked at her with hollow eyes. But it felt good, Catherine. The congratulations. The attention. People looked at me like I was special again. So you kept going. It snowballed, Mary said. One event turned into another. A small bump became a bigger one. Then the donations started coming in. Catherine frowned. Donations. Mary stood suddenly and walked to the desk in the corner. She returned with a folder full of papers and laid them out on the coffee table. Here, she said. See for yourself. Catherine looked through them. The documents showed large donations from companies and private individuals, all to Mary's nonprofit, New Beginnings Maternal Care. The organization is real, Mary explained. We do real work. We help women get prenatal care in underserved communities. What's not real is your pregnancy, Catherine finished for her. Mary nodded, looking down at the floor. I don't understand, Catherine said. Why would your pregnancy matter to the donors? Because of who they are. Mary sorted through the papers and pulled out several checks with names Catherine recognized. The Graves Foundation, the Williams Trust, Hampton Healthcare Services. They all lost someone, Mary explained. Children, grandchildren, siblings. They donate because they know the pain of loss. They believe I understand them because they think I've felt that same fear. Her voice grew firmer. They connect with me because they think I get it. The fear of losing a child. Catherine sat back, stunned. So the baby shower was a fundraiser. Basically, Mary admitted. Every gift, every decoration was donated by companies who support New Beginnings. They get tax write-offs and publicity. We get supplies for our clinics. Catherine's mind spun. It was manipulative, deceptive, maybe even criminal. Mary, this is. Her phone buzzed. A text from James. The obstetrician just emailed me. He says he filed a fraud report. Catherine's heart dropped. She looked up. Mary was watching her closely. Bad news? Mary asked. Catherine didn't answer. Instead, she turned her phone toward her. Mary read the message. Her face turned pale. Who else knows? Catherine asked quietly. Just Nathan and Tina, Mary whispered. Tina figured it out last month. Mary's calm broke. Her voice cracked. Catherine, I can't go to jail. If this comes out, the foundation will fall apart. All those women we help, they'll have nothing. You should have thought about that before you started this performance, Catherine said. I know. Tears rolled down Mary's cheeks. I know it was wrong, but I'll fix it. Once the final donation from the Graves Foundation clears, I'll announce I lost the baby. People will feel sympathy, not suspicion. No one will question it. The chill in her voice shocked Catherine. This wasn't grief talking. This was planning. And what about everyone who cares about you? She asked. People who've been worried, who've shopped for you, who made plans with you. What about their feelings? They'll recover, Mary said quickly. People always do. I'm not sure I will, Catherine said softly. Something changed in Mary's face. A flash of the girl she used to be. Someone Catherine had grown up with. Someone real. I need you, Catherine, Mary said. You're the only person who won't leave me over this. The only one who understands. The weight of 20 years of friendship sat heavy on Catherine's shoulders. Sleepovers, graduations, weddings, secrets whispered, promises kept. Times when Mary had shown up for her. Times when she hadn't. I'll think about it, Catherine said, standing up and picking up her purse. But this has to stop. Today. Mary nodded quickly, her eyes full of desperation. Anything you want. Just don't tell anyone else. Please. As Catherine drove away, the cabin grew smaller in her rearview mirror. But inside, something felt empty. The Mary she thought she knew had vanished, replaced by someone she barely recognized. Her phone rang through the car speakers. It was James. You were right, she said before he could speak. About everything. Are you okay? He asked gently. No, she admitted. I'm really not. Come home, James said softly. We'll figure this out together. But even as she drove, one detail kept bothering her. Something Mary had said about the donation from the Graves Foundation. The name rang a bell, stronger than just from the papers. Catherine took the next exit and pulled into a coffee shop parking lot. She searched her phone contacts. Penelope Graves, the serious widow she had met at a charity gala the year before. The woman had been very interested in her counseling work with grieving parents. Without overthinking, Catherine tapped the number and made the call. Mrs. Graves? This is Catherine Walker. We met at the Bright Futures Gala. She took a deep breath. I was wondering if I could ask you something about a donation you made to New Beginnings Maternal Care. 30 minutes later, Catherine sat stunned in her car, Monica Smith's words still echoing in her ears. Mary promised the baby would be named after my late husband, Monica had said. Anderson for a boy, and Drina for a girl. She told me it would be a living memorial to him, and that the baby's father, what was his name? Nathan, had agreed. This wasn't just about faking a pregnancy. It wasn't just misleading donors. It was strategic emotional manipulation, targeting grieving families. And at that moment, Catherine knew she could no longer protect Mary. 3 days later, a post appeared on a local community forum. Fraud alert. Local nonprofit director faking pregnancy to secure donations. Catherine didn't write it. Neither did James. But the damage was done. Within hours, the story spread through their small town like wildfire. Screenshots circulated on social media. Local news picked it up. Mary's phone went straight to voicemail. Nathan deleted all his accounts. James was called in to speak with the hospital board, as was Dr. Henry Gregg, the obstetrician who had attended the baby shower. Both were asked to give official statements about what they had seen. I didn't say anything too specific, James told Catherine that evening, loosening his tie as he sank into the couch. Just confirmed that, as a medical professional, I had concerns about the truth of her condition. This is a nightmare, Catherine said softly, scrolling through hundreds of comments online. People they had known for years were expressing outrage, disbelief, and anger. Some defended Mary, suggesting she was mentally unwell. Others demanded criminal charges. How did this even get out? James asked. You didn't tell anyone but me, right? And Monica Smith, Catherine said quietly. But she wouldn't have posted this. She was horrified, embarrassed. Then someone else at the shower must have suspected something, James said. Or maybe it was Tina. Whoever it was, the result was the same. Mary's carefully built world was collapsing, and Catherine was watching it happen from afar. The next day, a letter appeared in their mailbox, hand-delivered. Catherine recognized the handwriting right away. Catherine, I know what you did. I trusted you with my truth, and you betrayed me, just like everyone else eventually does. Don't bother denying it. You've always been jealous of my life, my marriage, my success. You pretend to care, but deep down, you've been waiting for me to fall. Well, congratulations. You've destroyed everything I built. I hope you're satisfied. Mary. There was no apology, no sign of guilt, just blame, placed squarely on Catherine's shoulders. She crumpled the letter in her hands. A memory surfaced from their junior year of high school. Mary fainting in the cafeteria after a breakup. The panic, the ambulance, the sympathy from teachers and friends. Later, in private, Mary had whispered, "I just needed everyone to see how much it hurt." Catherine had excused it then. She had excused so many things over the years. The borrowed clothes that were never returned. The boyfriends Mary had flirted with. The plans she canceled when something better came along. Always followed by that same charming smile that made it hard to stay mad. The doorbell rang, pulling her back to the present. Jessica stood on the porch. Her usual artsy, bohemian look had been replaced by jeans and a plain t-shirt. She looked tired, drained. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. Catherine nodded and led her to the kitchen. She poured them both coffee and waited. "I feel like such a fool," Jessica said after a long silence. "I gave her $3,000. Catherine's eyes widened. "What?" Jessica nodded, ashamed. "For the nursery." She said it was just a short-term thing. That she had a big design job coming, but needed to lock in the contractor. "Oh, Jessica. I know. But she always paid me back before." And she was so excited. She talked about making everything perfect for the baby. Jessica's voice shook. Her eyes filled with tears. "But there is no baby, is there?" "No," Catherine said gently. "There isn't. Was there ever?" "A year ago she had an early miscarriage," Catherine said softly. Jessica sat quietly nodding. "That makes more sense than whatever this is." "Did she ask anyone else for money?" "Lillian. Maybe." They had lunch a few weeks ago, and Mary focused on her a lot afterward. After Jessica left, Catherine didn't wait. She called Lillian immediately. Lillian answered on the first ring, her calm, professional tone in place. "I've been expecting your call," she said. "You want to know if she asked me for money too?" "Did she?" "Not directly," Lillian replied. "But she talked a lot about her nonprofit. Said they needed a mental health program. Told me I'd be the perfect person to lead it. And I offered to volunteer. She didn't seem excited about that." "You saw through her." "Professional hazard," Lillian said. "I notice when someone's performing instead of being real." She paused for a moment. "In my professional opinion, Catherine, Mary shows signs of Munchausen syndrome. Isn't that when someone fakes illness for attention?" "Yes. But in this case, it's almost like Munchausen by proxy. Except the proxy is her imagined role as a mother. She created a story that gave her sympathy, attention, even money. And it all centered on a pregnancy that never existed." Catherine closed her eyes, overwhelmed. "What happens to someone like that?" she asked. "Without help," Lillian said. "The lies grow, the risks grow, and eventually, everything falls apart." Her voice softened. "Has anyone heard from her?" "Not since the story came out. She sent me a letter blaming me for everything." "Classic deflection," Lillian said. "She can't face what she's done." After the call ended, Catherine sat in silence, trying to process everything. Her phone buzzed again. It was Stanley, Mary's younger brother. "Catherine." His voice sounded broken when she picked up. "Have you heard from Mary?" he asked. "No. Have you?" "Not since yesterday. She called me crying. I couldn't really understand what she was saying." He paused, trying to collect himself. "I knew something was wrong. I've known for months. But I didn't have proof, and Mom and Dad wouldn't listen." "It's not your fault, Stanley. Isn't it? She's my sister. I should have tried harder." His voice cracked. "The police are involved now. Someone filed fraud charges." Catherine's stomach dropped. "Already? Multiple donors. And Catherine, she's gone. Cleaned out her accounts this morning and disappeared." Catherine gripped the phone tighter. "What about Nathan?" "He said she left him too. But honestly, he sounds more angry than worried. That tells me everything I need to know about their marriage." After they ended the call, she phoned James at the hospital. "Mary's missing," she said without any introduction. His tone immediately turned serious. "Missing how?" "She disappeared. Her accounts are empty. No one's heard from her." He paused, then said quietly, "She might come to you." "Why would she?" "She blames me for exposing her. Because you're her constant, her emotional safety net. Even when she pushes you away, she's really just pulling you closer." James's words haunted her as the evening wore on. Catherine paced the house, jumping at every creak, glancing through windows at every flicker of light. The rain began around 9. At first, a light tapping. By midnight, it had become a heavy downpour. James had been called into emergency surgery, leaving her alone with her thoughts. She had just decided to try sleeping when there was a soft knock at the door. She froze. The knock came again, light, barely louder than the rain. Catherine moved carefully toward the door and peered through the peephole. Mary stood on the porch, soaked from head to toe, her hair clinging to her face. No makeup, no designer clothes. Just Mary, silent, broken, and dripping on the doormat. Catherine opened the door. Mary didn't speak, didn't move, just stared with empty, hollow eyes. Then, like a puppet with its strings cut, she collapsed forward into Catherine's arms. Her body felt small, fragile. For a woman who had pretended to be 7 months pregnant, she seemed as if she had withered away. Catherine could feel her ribs through the soaked fabric as she half carried her inside. She wrapped Mary in a blanket and sat her on the couch. Mary didn't say a word. Her eyes stared into the distance. Catherine made tea, but Mary didn't touch it. She asked questions. Mary didn't answer. Eventually, Catherine just sat beside her in silence, watching the rain roll down the windows. After what felt like hours, Mary finally spoke. "Tell me what to do," she whispered. "I'll do it." Catherine looked at her, at the person who used to be her best friend, and she felt nothing but tired. When James returned at dawn, he found them like that. Mary curled into a ball on the couch, Catherine sitting across from her in an armchair, unmoving. One look at James's face told her he knew. "They've issued a warrant," he said quietly, leading Catherine into the kitchen. "Fraud. Multiple counts. The Graves Foundation is pressing charges." Catherine looked back at Mary's sleeping form on the couch. "She has nothing left. No money. No home. No reputation." "That's not our problem," James replied. His voice was firm but not harsh. "Catherine, she manipulated grieving families. She used their pain. She took money under false pretenses. I know she needs to face the consequences," Catherine said. "And she needs help. Professional help. She can't stay here," James said, rubbing his forehead. "I want her out by noon." Catherine nodded. He was right. Keeping Mary now would only make them part of what came next. After James left for work, Catherine made toast and coffee and set the plate in front of Mary, who had finally stirred. "James wants you gone by noon," she said plainly. Mary didn't argue. She nodded, then picked at the toast without eating. "Where will I go?" she asked. "You could turn yourself in," Catherine said. "Take responsibility." Mary gave a small, bitter laugh. "They'll put me in jail. Maybe. Maybe not. But running only makes it worse." Mary looked up, and for a moment, Catherine saw the girl she used to know. "A documentary producer called me yesterday," Mary said. "Wants to interview us both. Something about deception and mental illness in the social media age. They're offering money." "You can't be serious." "Why not?" Mary said. "At least I'd control the story." Catherine stared at her in disbelief. Even now, she was thinking about the story, the spotlight, the attention. "Mary, this isn't a PR problem," she said. "It's not something you can spin or make pretty. You lied to everyone who loves you. You used people's grief for money. For the foundation," Mary corrected softly. "For the foundation that you controlled. That built your reputation. That gave you power," Catherine snapped. "Stop lying to yourself, if no one else." Mary's face changed. A crack appeared in her expression. "What do you want from me, Catherine?" she said, her voice rising. "Tears? Confession? Do you want me to crawl and beg, so you can feel better about leaving me when I need you most?" "This isn't about me," Catherine replied. "It's always been about you." Mary's face turned red. "Of course it is. Perfect Catherine, with her perfect husband, her perfect job, her perfect morals. Never a mistake, never a mess. Do you even know what it's like standing in your shadow for 20 years? "I've made mistakes," Catherine said quietly, "including letting this friendship go so far that you thought you could use me like you use everyone else." "I never used you," Mary whispered. "Didn't you?" Catherine asked. "The late-night crises. The drama that always happened right when something important was happening for me. The way you always needed saving." Mary flinched, like she'd been slapped. "That's what friends do," she said. "They show up." "Friends," Catherine said softly. "Not emotional vampires." They sat across from each other at the kitchen table. 20 years of friendship stretched between them like something heavy and broken. "I think there's something wrong with me," Mary whispered after a long pause. "I can't tell what's real anymore, what's real and what's performance." "I know," Catherine said, her voice softening. That's why you need help. Real help. Mary was quiet for a long moment. I just wanted to be special again, Sailor told before Catherine could respond. A sharp knock came at the front door. Through the window, she saw a police cruiser parked in the driveway. Mary's eyes went wide with panic. She jumped up from her chair and ran toward the back door. Catherine caught her arm. Don't, she said softly. It will only be worse if you run. Let me go, Mary cried, twisting in her grip. Catherine, please. I can't go to jail. I can't. In that moment, Catherine had to make a choice between the friend she had known all her life and the truth she couldn't ignore, between the loyalty that had shaped her for so many years and the moral clarity that had risen from everything that had fallen apart. I'll speak for you, Catherine said at last, letting go of Mary's arm. I'll tell them you came here on your own, that you're cooperating. It might help. Mary leaned against the wall, her body sinking, defeated. You really think I'm a monster, don't you? She whispered. Catherine shook her head. No, I think you're lost, and I can't find you anymore. The next few hours passed like a blur. Police statements. Charges read aloud. Mary, hollow-eyed, being led into the back of a police car. Catherine made her statement, just as she had promised. She gave a version of the truth, one that left out the darker details that would have only made things worse. A partial truth, for a half-lived life. Weeks passed, then months. Mary accepted a plea deal, probation, restitution, community service, and mandatory psychiatric treatment. The foundation was shut down. Whatever money was left was given to real maternal health organizations. Catherine kept her promise and testified. She spoke carefully, balancing honesty with kindness. She talked about Mary's miscarriage, the grief that had spiraled into something bigger, something untrue. She talked about the good the foundation had done, even if the money behind it had been gained through deception. She didn't mention the targeted donors. She didn't talk about the journal that showed the lies may have been planned. Not just emotional outbursts, but careful moves. Some would call it lying under oath. Catherine called it the last act of friendship she could offer. 6 months after the baby shower, the day that had started everything, a letter arrived. It came from the psychiatric facility where Mary was now getting care. Catherine, they tell me writing this is part of recovery. I'm supposed to acknowledge the harm I've caused. Take responsibility. Apologize for real, not just pretend. I don't know if I understand the difference yet. I don't even know who I am when nobody's watching. But I do know one thing. You saved me. From myself. Not the way a friend does, by ignoring things or making excuses, but the way a sister would, with hard truth and harder love. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to reply. But I need you to know this. In the mess I made of everything, one thing finally became clear. The difference between being seen and being known. Mary. Catherine folded the letter and placed it inside the old memory box in her closet. It sat beside photos from their childhood, a faded friendship bracelet, and a piece of the pale blue shawl she had once made up just to have an excuse to go to Mary's house. Then she drove to the baby shower venue. It was quiet now, the barn empty in the soft autumn light. She sat alone on the front steps, watching the leaves fall slowly from the nearby trees. Around her, the world was calm. Still, Catherine sat there thinking about all the invisible things people choose not to see in those they love. Mary had taught her something. Some lies are told out of love, but others are told because someone loved the attention more than they loved the truth.